I've been thinking a lot recently about earlier Ninjago, and as long as I'm not completely inept at this channel, you should have recently seen a Season 1 retrospective from me. If you have, it's on screen, and you should definitely go check it out if you haven't. And it re-sparked my entire curiosity of when it comes to the Green Ninja, or more specifically the Green Ninja prophecy as a whole, because it was one of the first mysteries to do with Ninjago, and it was one of the first instances we really saw when it came to Destiny. But the thing is that the concept and the entirety of that prophecy is wrong. Now, of course, the Green Ninja prophecy isn't something that the writers would ever go directly back to, because it's not been relevant in the show since the second season. Of course, it has been mentioned since. The main thing I can think of is Ninjago Decoded. But the thing is that by all intents and purposes, the Green Ninja prophecy just simply never actually came to fruition. And to this day, it is by all accounts still actually an active prophecy. And again, you may deny that this is the case, but it is actually what's going on here. So I want to take this video to take a look through the Green Ninja prophecy, really decipher what it truly meant, and how we can maybe look at it in a different light, because as it stands, it is at best a confusing mess. So what actually is the Green Ninja prophecy in its entirety? Well, it comes down to one very simple sentence. One ninja will rise above the others and become the Green Ninja, the ninja destined to defeat the Dark Lord. And before we even get into the meaning and how that is even transformed within the course of the show, where did this destiny actually even come from? Well, it is fairly simple. Ninjago Decoded actually does give us that answer. It simply put came from the monks. It came from the Cloud Kingdom. They were the ones who originally wrote it, and they did, by all accounts, seem to have Lloyd in mind when it did come to that destiny. So for the most part, we can leave that there as where it came from, but I do think it will actually come to an importance later. But for now, let's actually discuss what it means. Well, it's quite simple. It's just the fact that the Green Ninja will defeat the Dark Lord. But initially within the show, it actually did have a different meaning. The ninja and the audience was led to believe that the Dark Lord was actually just meant to be Garmadon, and it seems to be that that was the original intent. It wasn't until Season 2 where they did retroactively change this prophecy, and they did actually make it so the Dark Lord was to be the Overlord. So Lloyd defeats the Overlord, and that is the prophecy all well and said and done, and that's the end of the video, right? Well, no, not really. The problem with this is the fact that the Overlord himself remarks at the fact that he is unable to be defeated. He laughs at the fact that he believes that the ninja thought that they were actually going to be able to get rid of him, when in reality, despite their numerous attempts, they've never been able to successfully keep him down. The Overlord never actually gets defeated or destroyed in any sort of way. He simply only ever enters a state of hibernation. The growing darkness and the instability of the balance is what ultimately then reawakens the Overlord. So if the Dark Lord that the prophecy states cannot be defeated, then what actually is the prophecy referring to? Now again, there is simple answers to this problem. For one that a lot of people do seem to run with is the idea that the Overlord's first defeat within Season 2 was actually just the prophecy done then and there. That is ultimately a way of looking at it, but I really don't think it makes a lot of sense, because not only does Lloyd not defeat the Overlord the next time round, that being Zane, he also does go back and defeats the Overlord one more time in Crystallized. So the thing is that the Overlord is too recurring within the course of Ninjago for the prophecy simply to be able to be true. So there has to be another angle to look at this problem. And not only do I have one idea on how to solve this, I actually have two, and they take completely separate directions in how you can actually look at the course of the Green Ninja. The first one actually has to do with the Green Ninja himself, and the other one, spoiler alert, has something to do with factors outside of his own abilities. This first one ultimately comes down to something that a lot of aspects of Ninjago comes down to, which is the course of the balance. The thing is that we've only ever seen the balance maintained by the ninja or tilted towards the darkness or by destruction by the Overlord's hands. And that of course is the reason why the Overlord is always able to come back. The shift in the balance towards the Overlord is what gives him power. But the thing is that we've never seen the balance tilted the other way. And it ties into my theory, because what if the final battle or the prophecy of the Green Ninja never actually has come to fruition? What if the prophecy is still open-ended? Because in that situation, we could see a scenario where the balance is tilted towards creation, and once that happens, the Overlord theoretically could be destroyed. This would not only solve the whole concept of the prophecy, but give it much more of an interesting feel. Of course, you could then make the argument of that means the Overlord would have to come back, or that means we would have to see Golden Power come back in some way, but it's the only way to make the prophecy still work, because by its own definition, the prophecy cannot have been completed thus far. So, if we do take into consideration the fact that the balance never has gone in the direction of creation, we can definitely apply it there. But I will say the other theory is just much more grounded within the show itself, and it calls back to what I said in the beginning. Of course, it is confirmed by Decoded, and I didn't even mention the fact that Possession also mentions it, but the prophecy of the Green Ninja did come from Cloud Kingdom. It came from the monks, and they themselves have said that they were the ones that decided Lloyd to be the Green Ninja, and they were the one that decided the entirety of their fate. But the thing is that what if the Cloud Kingdom simply were not correct? And you may say, well, they're the writers of Destiny. They are the ones that do make those decisions. But the thing is that we've had plenty of argument to suggest that they simply do not. In Possession itself, when we see them talking about Destiny, we also get told that there is a way to defy Destiny. So it's not exactly like their scripture is completely set in motion. So what if they were wrong because of a defilement of Destiny? What if the Overlord is simply refusing what is meant to be the case? So you could look at it in that one scenario, but again, you can look at them in being wrong in another way. Dragon's Rising has also gone out of its way to confirm a lot of different aspects about the Cloud Kingdom. The thing is that their scriptures and what they do right within their scrolls may not entirely be the case. There is always the concept that they may actually end up being wrong, and the thing is that additional information does confirm that their scriptures just simply could be lies. The thing is though, is that whilst that is a bit of a cop-out answer, it does weirdly tie together the Green Ninja prophecy fairly well. The thing is that Ninjago will always be in a remain of the balance shifting. There will never be a definitive end to the Dark Lord or the Overlord because of what we know about him. So simply put, if we consider instead that the writers of the prophecy were incorrect, we could look at it in that way to solve the mystery. But apart from those two outcomes, I don't necessarily see another way to be able to justify the existence of the Green Ninja prophecy. Like I said, I simply do not subscribe to the answer that Season 2 was the end of the prophecy there and then, because it completely takes out of account everything that we've seen later down the line. The thing is that they were never able to anticipate the Green Ninja prophecy not being complete, because ultimately the Green Ninja prophecy was originally about Garmadon, it was then about the Overlord, and then the show came back. So the thing is that it's just the product of when it was done, and that is the ultimate point above all else, so you can just look at it in the sense of they never considered it beyond that point. But this is, in my opinion, an in-universe explanation as to how the prophecy of the Green Ninja could be looked at in a different angle, or more importantly, how it could be looked at in the sense of it being wrong. But I do think apart from all of that, the ultimate point about the Green Ninja is the fact that no matter how you shake the entirety of the prophecy and the destiny of Lloyd, he is the Green Ninja. Destiny did pick him for a reason. That is something that we know for a fact. Lloyd as a person and Lloyd as his elemental ability seemingly does have an inherent link to what the Green Ninja is meant to be. So no matter how you spin some piece of paper, he is still what we know of him as, which is the legendary Green Ninja. But with all of that out of the way, this is where I want to pass this off to you guys. I want to know, what do you think of my two theories as to the prophecy of the Green Ninja and how you could look at it in a new context? Do you agree with any of these theories? Do you have a whole new theory of your own? I would love to know your own interpretation, because that is what it is. It is ultimately up to interpretation. But this is how I've conceived it based on the evidence that I have found within the course of the show. But like I said, this is where I want to hear from you guys, because I do think it is an interesting topic. Which theory do I personally lean towards? It is the Cloud Kingdom theory. The thing is that newer information is always more important, and this Cloud Kingdom theory is based on what we found out from Dragon's Rising. So if we do take all of that into account, it does lead to a fairly steady theory as to what truly was the case. I do like my other idea of the balance potentially shifting towards creation, and that is what gets rid of the Overlord. But the thing is that is a completely baseless theory. At least the Cloud Kingdom one is based on some sort of information from the show. But again, I really want to know what you guys think of this. But that is about it for today, you guys, and thank you very much for watching. I do hope you enjoy these theories that I do come up with, because I do find them extremely interesting. And if you do have any other little topics that you want me to delve into, I would love to hear it, because I do really enjoy these rabbit holes. And I hope you guys do as well, like I said. But if you did enjoy it, please consider subscribing. I love discussing Ninjago with new people, and if you do want to support the channel any further, which you do not have to, you could always consider becoming a channel member. You could join the legends on screen, and a particular shout out to the eternal legend, Grandmaster Sensei 28208. Thank you very much, my friend. But that is about it for today, you guys, and thank you very much for watching. Take care. Okay,